Please note that all opinions are Cynthia's, and she does not speak on behalf of Google.
Okay. Introduce yourself so people that are listening that may not be able to see us on Spotify or YouTube. By the way, if you're listening, please subscribe on any platform that you listen to. But tell them who you are.
Oh, wow, we've started. Okay.
We're starting right now. Just go with it, girl.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Cinthia Kim. I grew up in New York, and I still live there. Currently, I work in the data center industry at Google. I'm a program manager there, and I'm really excited to be here.
That was the lamest introduction I've ever heard anybody do.
What do people
You're
talk
from
about?
Queens,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean, you're
yeah.
from gangsta. I mean, like, do you still live in Queens?
I still live in Queens, yeah.
How many people from Queens have gone to where you're like a double Ivy League propeller hat type of kid, if I remember? I know you went to at least Cornell, right?
Yeah, at least Cornell. That's the minimum bar of an Ivy. Yes, I went to Cornell, yeah.
Minimum bar, Ivy, that's an incredible school. So what's your story? You're from Queens, so you have street smart and grit. So don't pretend like you're just a big fat brain, right?
Okay, okay.
Unpackage this a little bit, because what we want to do is, like, you and I are drawn to very similar things with a purpose. But our purpose is to serve two completely different communities, but it doesn't change our conviction. Yeah. And I'm in support of yours, and I hope that you support mine. So I wanted to talk to you about yours and this platform. The reason why we created, we created a conference first, because what we wanted was a platform for everybody. Mm-hmm. Like DCAC is I facilitate that conference, but that's the industry's conference. It's the people's conference. Yeah. We just help kind of host it, right? But everything goes into that conference to give back to the industry. And you've been to DCAC before, just once?
I've been to DCAC last year, yeah.
Did you come this year?
No, I couldn't. The policies are pretty strict.
You're too big deal.
I'm too small deal. That's what it is.
All right, so listen, we met at DCAC. We'll get to that. But this platform on the podcast side was because we didn't have enough exchange only once a year at a conference.
Right.
And this podcast platform lets me get back to other communities that aren't going to be in orbit right around the data centers, like the military bases or your community in Queens as an example, right? So really, I want you to use this, because it's not just going to be you and I kind of unpackaging the way that we could do these and use this platform, but hopefully you're going to inspire a lot of other people, right? Okay. That want to do the same or want to contribute and be a part and support what you're doing.
Right.
So I'm really grateful that you came here. And I know that this is like, dude, this is just us two talking. That's all it really is.
Right.
Cool? Yeah. So now let's start a little bit more at the beginning, because you're a lot cooler than what you explained in your introduction. So I met you at DCAC sitting at a table. I think Jen Reniger was on my right.
Yes.
And did I spill my drink on you or something?
I think so. I think you were just like, move over. And then you bumped into me, and I was holding a drink, and it's just spilled all over myself. So. And
then you just started screaming at me in Korean. Yeah. That's the last thing I can remember.
Yeah. You were not very well behaved. Yeah, I remember that.
I was a victim, actually. Someone bumped me, if you don't remember that. I didn't just randomly come up.
Don't play the victim card.
I sure was the victim. I'm pretty sure of it. But yeah, you were pretty unimpressed with me at that night. That
yeah.
You were at Yonder at the time? Is that where you were?
I was at Yonder, and I was like, who is this this gentleman who's not even drinking, just spilling over people's drinks? So
I know. I wasn't
remember
drinking.
that.
I was a hot mess. So take us back. We met. You were at Yonder. We met at DCAC, but you've been in the game. Tell us a little bit about yourself, if you can. Like, who are you, Cinthia? Where you started in Queens, and you worked your way up and somehow found yourself working in where you're at today. So it's a big gap.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder how far back should I go?
You know what? This is something that you can paint with a broad stroke, in the very beginning. Okay. But there's something that inspires you. There's something that drives you. There's something that inspires you to do what you do, and there's something that you do because it makes you fulfilled by what you're doing. So the genesis behind that typically starts when we're really young, right? And I would imagine, were you first generation Korean?
Yeah, what does that even mean? Like first generation
Can you
Korean?
tell me?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I'm Korean ethnically.
Yeah.
I don't know if my parents have like other Mongolian blood or Chinese blood or whatever it is, but as far as I know, they're Korean.
Were they born there or were they born here?
They were born in Korea. Uh-huh. I believe it was after the independence from the Japanese imperialism. So it should be South Korea at that time. And so my mother, she was born at the border where the South Korea and the North Korea divide is.
Okay.
And then my father, he grew up at the southernmost tip of Korea. So
South Korea or North Korea?
South Korea. And so if they were in Korea, they would have never met each other. just geographically.
Too far apart.
Too far apart, yeah. And transportation at the time, it's not that great. So from the 1960s through 80s, a lot of Koreans left. There's a huge exodus of Koreans. And my grandfather, he was a laborer. So he went around the world doing labor. So he went to like Saudi Arabia, Uruguay, he went to Argentina, Brazil. And then finally, he brought his family over to Paraguay, which is a South American country. So my mother's side of the family moved over to South America. And it was thankfully around the time where they had like planes going to South America, or else you would have been in the boat for like 4 months.
Oh, gotcha.
So we know somebody who was born on a boat. She's Korean, but she has Switzerland.
Because she was in international waters?
Yeah, she was on international waters, yeah. So it's a very funny like story of
very
all
small
those
stories like that.
Yeah, a lot of families that came to Paraguay through different stories like that. And then my father, he has an older brother. I think he's one of 7, and like older brothers are a lot older at that time. And then he somehow found himself in Paraguay, and he actually fought in the Paraguayan Civil War.
Your uncle did?
My uncle, yeah, my great uncle. I just remember him, like, as a child, he was very hardened as a man. He was very strict, like a deacon at a church, but very, very strict. I remember that.
Sure.
And so he started his own business in Paraguay and then brought my father over to help his business. And so that's how my mom and my dad met. There's, I think, at least a very small community in Paraguay that you would be able to marry somebody. And so they met each other there. They had my brothers and me. So I grew up in Paraguay until I was 8 in Asunción. It's just the capital of Paraguay. And then I remember just like speaking Spanish a little bit.
Was that your secondary language, though? Was Korean your first?
Yeah.
I bet.
Actually, yeah.
So you learned Korean growing up as your first language, and then Spanish as your second?
As my second.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
It is. I wish I retained it a little bit. I wish I was there a little bit longer so that I could be as fluent as my cousins.
Yeah.
My brother, he's really good.
He's fluent.
And my cousins, like who did up to high school, they like speak Portuguese, like Korean really well, Spanish, and then English. So I wish you were cool.
You'd be a lot cooler if you do that.
Yeah, I know. I wish I was more than bilingual or trilingual.
Like, I know. Yeah. You're a really big underachiever, I could tell already. So anyways, at 8 years old, you guys end up in Queens?
Yeah. So I think a lot of generation in Paraguay at that time, they moved to Brazil, or they sent their children to Korea or the States for college. And my parents were always really strict about education because they grew up just normal working class. Sure. And they're immigrants, right? Yeah. So you have to work hard, have to have grit. And so we moved to the States. I remember visiting New York 2002, and it was right before or after 9/11.
It had to be after, yep.
I just remember hearing about it in the news, like in Paraguay, and everybody was shocked. So even in the small town in Paraguay, like people still remember that.
Sure.
So I just remember that. And then, so that was my first impression of the US. And then I'm there. So our family immigrated to New York City, Queens. We had my uncle, my mother's side, already living there. So we
had some family to integrate with.
Yeah, exactly. And so we grew up there, went to public elementary school, middle school, high school in New York, and just studied really hard. Went to a specialized high school.
Well, so unpackage that. So were you, were your brothers in the same types of schools? I understand a lot of immigrants place such a huge emphasis on education.
Yeah.
And that makes sense, right? Because there used to be a time where everybody was taught, like, if you go to school and get good grades, you could get a good you could go to a good college. And if you go to a good college and you get a good job, and if you do that, then you can make good money. And if you do that, then you can be happy. Right. So education was the number one foundation for stability. Right. So your culture through the migration perspective was, let's just get everybody to the highest level of education they can, because that creates the most opportunity.
I think you hit it on the nail. It's no surprise. It's kind of interesting because I think I am the stereotypical Asian in that, like, I studied hard.
You can't drive, right? What are you talking about?
I don't drive. I'm from New York.
Yeah, so you're a triple whammy.
I'm a triple
woman, New Yorker, Asian. You might as well just take the bus.
If you ever want a special experience, just get in the car with me and I'll drive.
Yeah. It's like, if I have terminal cancer, you know what I'm saying? I was like, you know what? I got nothing to lose. You know, I mean, but so
I would have to have one too, right? I want to be alive.
Yeah. I forgot I mean, there's a lot of people in New York that will spend their entire lives and never get a driver's license.
It's actually true. They just got state IDs. Yeah.
So do you have people in your family that don't drive?
Yeah, and I have especially folks that grew up in New York.
Yeah.
They're working professionals, they're 40s, 50s. They don't drive.
Why would I park a car? Why would I pay for it? And then only get tickets. Yeah. It's such a hassle to have one.
It's very expensive to own a car. Like,
do you love New York still? I mean, that was home, but you've been all over the country, I'm sure, by now.
Yes. So I grew up in a very competitive environment, and I think I would have been a very different person if I stayed in New York, but I went away for college, and that, learning to do things for yourself. And then I lived in Spain for 1 year for a student exchange program. It was eye-opening. I was always really like, let's go study, let's work hard, let's get all those, whatever ducks in a row.
And you had all the American kids like, hold my beer.
And so it was an eye-opening experience, just having time to look around and space of your own. So traveled a lot, I backpacked a lot, and that's when I started doing solo backpacking as well. And I just remember there's a lot of funny stories where, like Asian young woman just backpacking around Europe. I'm okay. It made me harder, and it's been a lot of fun. So yeah, I traveled around the world, but I really like New York as a home base because it's a great city where it connects from Europe to, California's kind of far, but like at least to the central. The food is amazing. You can get anything in the world. And I also have family there. So it's just a good place to be a good base. And I always travel a lot. So it just helps to have that as a base.
Was your, I was telling you that I had the pleasure of wrestling in high school with our heavyweight who's from Korea, South Korea. His parents, he was born here, but then his parents went back there and they let his grandmother live here, who didn't speak an ounce of English or try. And she raised him. And it was awesome because she just cooked all day. It was amazing. So I'd go over there and eat all day long because he was our heavyweight, right? But he would always say, he's like, yeah, not a lot of us, we're here to do math and science and get ahead. We're not here to do sports. So I didn't have a lot of the folks, there was Koreans that I went to school with, but not a lot of them. They didn't participate as much in sports because their focus was on nothing but education. And their parents were like, look, I don't care about that other stuff because you're not going to go pro in football. And there's no NFL for wrestling as an example, but you need to go get a good, were you ever an athlete? Were you allowed to be an athlete? You're a hiker now. What triggered that physical?
That's a really good point that you make. I don't think sports was ever on the table. I don't think my parents even knew that like you could do sports. I think that's a luxury. I wish my kids, if I ever have them, that they would be able to do some kind of sports. And college process, for example, you need to be a well-rounded individual. You can't just study. Yeah. Right. You have to have personality. You have to have, nowadays, like kids, you have to have a YouTube video or,
You have to have a nonprofit. You have to have a for-profit, before you even apply to some colleges.
Yeah,
right?
You have to have written some books. Yeah. But we didn't have that. So it was really just studying really hard and get good colleges. And
when you were younger, though, so were you the youngest or you have older brothers?
I'm the youngest. Yeah. I have an older brother now.
So my thing would be, when you were there, was the whole focus, like from the time you were young, you were trying to figure out which college you were going to go to? Did you know like which college you wanted to go to right off the gate? Were you trying to stay close to home because you kind of, you did?
Yeah. I think my parents, they had high expectations. I remember my dad gave me a stethoscope for my 5th year birthday.
He's like, well, so you're a future doctor. Is that what he wanted?
So, yeah, I think there were expectations that I would be the doctor. But my brother became the doctor.
Oh,
so I
no
was like,
kidding.
thank God.
Took all the pressure off you.
At least one person became the doctor in the family. So I was like, thank God. And when I chose civil engineering as a profession, my parents were like, what are you going to do with that? Like, we have no idea. Like, are you going to be able to get a job? Like, will you be able to have bread on the table? Like, that was legitimately the concerns that I felt my parents had when I had that, when I picked that profession.
Why did you pick that profession then if you didn't have the encouragement of your parents to go that path?
I think I was always like really good at math and science, and I did go to high school that really stressed.
So what was that school? You went to some like smart kid school or special? What do they call it?
Stuyvesant High School.
And what is it? It's it's
just like a specialized
Mensa or something. I don't
public school. I'm not smart enough for Mensa. Sure. I don't think so. And but they had a drafting class. Drafting is
what got you into civil engineering?
Yeah, drafting, and that was the first time I could do something fun, and it was actually
freshman year.
I think you start taking that in sophomore or junior year, and then they had architecture classes as well. It's very unique. So that's why I keep going back to high school, but that was formative in my years. I think really it starts in the middle school and high school when you think about what kind of future you want to have. So that was a very impressionable moment for me because I think that sort of decided that I wanted to do civil engineering.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to do architecture, but my parents were never gonna. I'm
on your parents' side. All those people are psychopaths. Every architect listening right now is probably white knuckling their steering wheel.
Alejandra and Nessa, is that?
Those are the biggest two psychopaths you'll ever. I'm kidding.
Oh,
those
okay.
two are savages. Yeah. Everyone else is. I hammer architects more than all the other engineers just because there was a time where it was all big A, little E in this game. Now it's big E now, right?
It's really interesting. Yeah, data centers especially, it's more E than A. The power dynamics
architects they're still critical to what we do, but we don't design the data center around that as much as we used to. Do you agree? The aesthetics of these facilities don't even matter anymore, right?
Yeah.
The functionality is all that matters.
It's about efficiency, I think. It's very interesting.
So where were you looking to go to school from there? And did you always know that you wanted to go? Where did you go for your undergrad?
So I went to Cornell for a civil engineering degree, and then I just had a lot of IP credits, so I was going to graduate a little bit early, and everybody was like, get a master's if you...
So you just stayed there for the master's?
So I stayed there for a master's of engineering.
How much longer was that?
Just one more semester, because I could do one semester as an undergrad, and then so I didn't have to pay that much.
Nice.
So also staying in state was helping with the tuition costs and everything.
Sure.
So I barely paid anything for college.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Your parents must be very proud. Yeah. So you went there, got a civil engineering undergrad, then got a master's in engineering?
In engineering management. And I think that was really good because the program was really strong. The professors were amazing. And it just really opened my eyes to other things that I really didn't think about. So
what year is this? And I'm trying to understand where the industry is at. I got out of the Navy in 2000 and I fell into this industry. So try to imagine what technology looked like in 2000. 6 years before that, Amazon.com launched its website, right? So
I thought we were the same age, Kirk.
So I have just a few years and a lot more gray. You know what I'm saying? But like you came into I want to understand how, so drafting in high school is what turned you on as an engineer. And that's critical for us to put a pin in that because every incredible woman leader in this space is wringing their hands out too, trying to figure out how do we recruit more to that demographic into this vertical. We're also doing it from a heritage perspective. You're doing it we're going to talk about what you're doing and how amazing that is to help. I'm trying to do the same. And we're all casting our own nets. We all come from our own tribes, so to speak, right? Yeah. So whatever communities we associate ourselves with some are based on gender or ethnicity, or it could be like veteran status like me. Some are identified as they come from the trades, right? But we kind of gravitate and orbit around tribes. Do you agree with this?
I agree with that, yeah.
And it's the strength in numbers, the herd, strength in herd, right? There's sometimes we feel like people that have got to the top of the hill who come from the same village as I do have a higher tendency of reaching down and helping pull others up. Do you not feel that responsibility now with what you're doing?
I do. I think it happened very organically.
Interesting.
So I just remember, because I'm new, right? I'm an immigrant. I'm new to this country. We don't have any connections. I had to hustle for every single internships in college from my experience. And so I'm really proud of myself in getting an internship every single summer without somebody's help.
Interesting. So what was the genesis behind that chip on the shoulder? Is it because you felt as an immigrant you were being excluded?
No, I think it's that sometimes you just need to know somebody to know about.
I'm just saying, in your face is all I'm saying.
Why are you drinking my drink?
You did order this, I'll drink it for you. Because
Okay.
a masculine dude like me would never order a vanilla latte with oat milk.
Oat milk, yeah.
I'm not, it's not butch enough for me, but if you don't want to drink it, I'll drink it. You sure you don't want it?
No,
right.
I'll let you have it.
Thank you.
Try a flat white next time with oat. It's really good.
I just heard that name for the first time when I was in Ireland. We hosted a conference over there a few weeks ago, and I was getting coffee for a couple of guys from London. And they're like, flat white. I'm like, sorry, bro. I don't know what that is. Like,
you should have just went with it.
They're like, they'll know what it is.
Yeah. So did you try it?
No, what is a flat white again?
I actually don't know all the thing, but it just tastes better than a cortado, but it also tastes better than a latte. It's like right in between.
Look, I'm getting turned on to all kinds of my palate's changing because I'm young enough to where my palate will still reinvent itself.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So hold on. So you wanted to get these internships at some point during the time in which you were in college and you were, going through your undergrad, or were you aware of the data center industry at all?
No, I wasn't aware of data centers. I think it was
What did you want to do then?
Yeah, I just wanted to work in New York City. I was building skyscrapers. I think that's the crown jewel, right? Mm-hmm. Or it could be renovations. It could be hotels, like all of that in New York. And then, so I realized that with each internship, I understood what I liked and what I didn't like.
Where were you interning at? Engineering firms?
So my first year, I interned for a general contractor in the city as an APM, and it was a very interesting experience. It felt like I was in a movie. Like if you work for a general contractor, things are flying everywhere. There's actual blueprints, and
there's lots of dangers. Hard hats and steel-toed boots, and
yeah,
they build, especially in New York. I built in New York, completely different monster of a city to build in.
Yeah, and it's like all the Italians are the PMs, all the accountings are
and all their cousins are the elevator operators that work for the union.
Yeah, they have a secret society, and I realized, where are my people?
But they tribe up heavily in New York, and it's not. I mean, the Italians will kind of gravitate, as the Koreans and all the Irish, but that's very common in a city like New York. It's not 100%. As common in a place like Texas.
100%.
People like, what are you talking about? Right? I mean, I have one of the most amazing people on my team is from South Africa. Mm-hmm. She's my right hand, and she gravitates to her community all the time. She's an American citizen, but that's her heritage, right? So that's where they get to be around people they feel is from their tribe or from their community or from their village, and that offers a lot of comfort, doesn't it?
It does. I think also because immigrants, it's just easier to communicate, especially if there's even one strand of connection that you can make. It's a little bit easier to bond. But that's not always the case. Not all Koreans like Koreans, right? But that was my experience in New York. And then by the time I graduated, I realized that I kind of wanted to do something in management of people, management of projects. And so I started in claims consulting in New York as my first job.
What is that? I don't even know what that is. Claims consulting?
So if you ever have a claim because of water damage, or there's delays to a project because the equipment didn't arrive on site. And I remember my first project was really, really massive solar power plant in California. And basically the manufacturer company that was delivering these generators, they were delayed by a year.
Oof.
And so everything was delayed on that project. And everybody was like, oh, it's because of you, because the generators didn't arrive on that time. We were delayed and we have so many liquidated damages.
Sure.
And so reading the contracts of where you are with claims, liquidated damages, how many days, how are you going to look at a schedule? How are you going to look at the labor hours and things like that? So it was really good training ground from the beginning of the year, beginning of my career, to understand it from a contract side of the business, looking at a whole big picture as to what does a construction schedule need to be? What are all these different players? What are the relationships? So I just, in consulting being consulting, you're working however many hours until you're done. So it was a really great experience.
Was that a job or an internship?
It was a job. It's a job.
So that's when you
graduated. My first job after college. Yeah.
I gotcha. What other internships did you have in college? And none of them led you to data centers. That's why I'm asking.
Oh yeah.
There's other people that are going to be listening. They're going to have daughters in school too. I mean, my daughter just committed to a D1 school, and I'm trying to figure out what has to be in her orbit for her to stumble into this space.
Do you want her to be in the data center space?
I absolutely do.
I mean, you're the king of data centers. No, I'm not. Let's just
that makes you the queen of it then. So my thing was, I don't know of a more punk rock industry that has more growth opportunity and potential for anybody and everybody. Like no one cares here what you're. From my perspective, I'm just an old white man. So I don't know the optics and how you have to view it through as any immigrant would have to, or as a female or any of those other things. But I'm like, I don't see a lot of barriers to entry in this market. In fact, I've never seen an industry push ESG or DEI and EIEIO more than us. We're trying our best to change humanity, I feel. And I think that try to imagine the way that you used technology when you graduated college, and then try to imagine how you use it today. Mm-hmm. So try to imagine how you'll use it in that much more time from now. Can you imagine like the jobs that my daughter will have a job in this industry that hasn't even been invented yet?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I want her to be in this space because I believe, and tell me what you think, I think that this industry has the potential of transforming all of humanity in a way that's even greater than what powered flight did for us. Because I think that we are using energy at such a massive demand that it's forcing us to change the way that we view power. Mm-hmm. And it'll probably eventually lead to, because the adoption rate of emerging technology is so high, specifically around the surge of AI, as you know, that we don't currently have it's an untenable strategy that we have today on energy to support the demand of AI.
Yeah.
So something's going to have to happen. And once we really get forced down the path of getting into bridging solutions like solar or nuclear or hydrogen, there's no going back. But I do think that those other alternatives of energy have the greatest impact on decreasing our carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I agree. I'm just scared.
Can you speak into the mic when you say that? Please? No, I'm joking. But like, there are major changes. Those are the transformations to humanity that this industry has to offer. I definitely want my kids to be a part of that significance.
Yeah, this is a really exciting time to be alive. And I don't think data centers were even on podcasts. And I listen to podcasts like crazy. I think it's only been like the last couple of years, right? Like just this year, I think they just started talking about data centers.
Just this year, it really started exploding. And I think when the election cycle's over, for the next 2 quarters, everyone's focus on this earth will be focused on the impact that AI has on communities and society.
100%.
And then people are going to be like, what are these things that are hosting AI? And we're going to realize it's the same machine that hosts the cloud. They call those 2 engines data centers, and we build those.
Yeah.
Right? And it's going to try to imagine, I feel like we're working amongst the Henry Fords of our industry today, the pioneers that built this space that will one day sunset, retire, and become policymakers that define governance and regulation for this industry, because it is the Wild West still, right?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And I was just thinking back, I think when I was in college, like Google Drive was just starting out, and Google Docs, where multiple people can edit at the same time. That was fascinating.
Pioneering.
Right. And that was, enabled by cloud, right? And now when we're working, we use ML all the time.
It's funny, a guy on my team who manages a lot of our strategy pays the top shelf dollar for whatever it costs for the highest engine of AI you can use to do things. And he has fed it so many things, from white papers I've written years ago to things that I may analyze and interpret a market trend and say something in a message that goes just to my team. And whatever that market message narrative could be that was really defined for the inside part of my team to understand how we pivot, that will be fed into AI. So he continuously puts in stuff. So now he has the ability to be like, write a speech from Kirk regarding his philosophy on the fifth industrial revolution, and it'll literally almost cover, I mean, it has to be humanized, but they will put enough content down there that they capture most of the things that I've said, because the keywords or the tricky phrases I've used are easily flagged. But I'm using terms that we both use that are parts of both of our lexicons. So AI is learning a lot of shit. But I also was reading this morning how Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. was like, he put it out in a speech like yesterday or the day before. He's like, just to be clear, I will sue any executive that uses my likeness in any form or fashion in AI moving forward. He goes, even when I'm dead, my law firm that will represent my estate will still be alive. So like, people are getting a little bit more protective on the way that AI is used to model them, or not replicate them, but twin them through in the way that they do their work.
Yeah, and I think it's because we're just developing these technologies too. So there's a lot of unknowns. So it is natural, right?
Well, this is really exciting. So I was trying to unpackage your brain so people understood your approach to where you're at in your life, and how did you get here, right? I think that's the biggest takeaway for people that are listening is, how does someone who comes to this country as an immigrant, who was just told, like all immigrants are, like, just get good grades and those things will take care of the rest. And in many respects, I mean, that's not a bad form of advice. It's doesn't guarantee you happiness, but it does help ensure that you have more optionality for success.
Right.
So you go, and like the rest of us, this industry is not mainstream. I mean, you weren't in school at Cornell being taught what a data center is.
Yeah. Oh, actually, we did. We had a computer science class.
You count that as the introduction to data centers. All right. So did you feel like you understood what a data center was from that class?
No, but we learned about Moore's law, and then we talked about how like cloud is actually a data center. And I remember
it's just someone else's data center. That's all a cloud is.
But that was my snippet of data center introduction. So I do think there was a couple of
breadcrumbs.
Yeah, breadcrumbs that really started on my journey to data centers.
Were you asking questions then when you were being exposed to it? Did you see it as an industry that you could park your career into?
I don't think I had the knowledge or the foresight to piece them together. I just really liked architecture and architecture is about being fancy, right? Like putting your ego into a building.
That's why I always give architects a hard time when it comes to data centers. I'm like, we don't need anything sexy. We just need 4 walls and a roof and a lot of reliability.
Well, Alejandro buildings were sexy, so.
Okay, so she is a completely different ally. I've asked her to be on this podcast no less than a dozen times because she's
too cool. She's like
too cool for school. But she has an amazing story too, a very inspiring story, which I'm like, why are you not up here doing what you're doing right now? You're talking about your ethnicity. You're talking about your challenges to get in this game. She has just as compelling of a story, you know. And but she's also like, I'm busy. I'm designing shit. You know what I'm saying? So that's why she's always like, sorry, man, I got shit to build.
She's badass.
She's tough.
I want to be her one day.
Yeah, I think that there's a few people. She's someone that I want on here too, because like you, there should be other women for my daughter and other young women to try to emulate. Can you imagine if you had one, Cinthia? Could you imagine if you had run in to one of your mentors 5 years ago? What kind of an impact would it have made on, not that you have a lagging career, but I'm trying to say, like, how do we take more of you and her and sprinkle that throughout the industry a little bit more to inspire people to, one, make them first aware that this industry exists. In this industry, it's pretty gangsta. You can do anything you want. You're not even late. If you started now, we're not even a mainstream sport yet. This is like kickball still.
You don't think this is mainstream enough?
Well, you tell me, when's the first time you started seeing the Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg and groups like that start talking about data centers on a regular basis?
I mean, this year, but do we have enough power?
Well, that awareness of what we're doing and everyone's focus on the fear of AI, knowing that AI is going to take up 10% of the U.S. demand for energy by the end of 2030, and that we will have to put 45 gigawatts of power online to support that demand at a minimum. People are going to start paying attention because investors will pay attention. And now you're going to see people that are looking at, like when Henry Ford created the automobile, he didn't create a car. He created an entire economy with a whole nother industry and an incredibly different ecosystem. People had to build tires for those cars. People had to build windshields and brake pads and all the things that go into it. And our industry is pivoting, right? So imagine, and there was a time where you couldn't just go down the road and find a gas station. You couldn't go down the road and get a tire or a part to fix your car. Right now, you go anywhere and throw a dead cat down the street and you're going to find an automobile place that could fix your stuff, or you're going to get an Uber to ride you.
Yeah.
But now that's mainstream. We are not mainstream. Mainstream is where 25% of the US population or the global population adopts it. Do you know how long it took before electricity was adopted by more than 25% of the US population? From the time it was created in the second industrial revolution.
I'm going to say at least, but how, by adoption, what do you mean? What scale are we talking about?
1 out of 4 Americans had it in their home.
1 out of 4. I would say 10 years,
46.
10, 20 years. Wow.
Yeah. It took 13 years for smartphones, it took 2 years for the television, but and that's a utility. That's the second utility in your home is power. The third was connectivity. You know how long that took? Because that was copper wire. From the time that the telephone was created before 1 in 4 Americans had it was 27 years.
Wow.
So imagine, this industry has been around since 1945 technically, but it didn't get really commercialized in the respect from many people's opinions until 30 years ago, 1994. So who knows? This industry, even at that age, you didn't know about it until when? Until you went to Cornell and were a sophomore getting classes on computer science where they're talking about cloud?
Yeah, I think, yeah. And I mean, data center goes back to high school, so.
Okay, so you did hear about them in high school.
But no interest there.
Zero.
Zero
it wasn't
interest
cool.
there. Everybody wanted to become software engineers at that time.
Which AI will blow that out.
Yeah, and we were making like games as kids, and it just didn't interest me at all. And so, but I loved the game of construction and being in New York. Building is so much fun, and different types of personalities. Like,
what's the most fun? Like, what do you like most about building? I'll tell you what I like. No 2 days are ever the same. That's what I like, is just the constant ebb and flow of the dynamics that shift on a daily basis on the site. That's what I love about building. And I think that those needs, those smart hands, those crafts, those trades, and those skills never will go away. You'll have technology that could help support some of those things, but you'll still need human beings to always build these big, huge cathedrals that we build for the sky, for the cloud.
I agree with you. Like, as designs develop, the intricacies of engineering as well, I think you'll always need a person to be the architect behind that.
Yeah. Oh,
we were saying architecture a lot, even though I'm not architecture.
Psycho. It's just in you. But when you left that place where you were doing, the insurance challenges and claims over liquidated damages.
Yeah.
Where did you go to next?
Yeah. So I did claims consulting, and then you just consume a lot of data at a time. And so that really piqued my interest. How can I make it a little bit more efficient? You talk about Henry Ford a lot, like operational efficiency. And so data engineering and data analytics is how you organize a lot of volume of data into smaller, bite-sized, digestible information. So at a case, you would be looking at millions of documents. Like, how do you find those 1 or 2 that are really important to you? So I took a bootcamp course in data analytics on the side as I was working. And so just was coding sometimes, after work. And then I was like, maybe I should try it out for once.
I feel like you should be wearing my shirt.
Yeah, I'm going to get there.
I got you.
I'm going to get there.
I got you. So, like, this is awesome because we're going to tie this back to, like, not the obsolescence of college, but how do you think that what you studied in college prepared you for what you're doing today? Or could you have studied a dozen different things in college and still been able to do what you're doing today?
I think the master's was really, really strong for me. I don't think undergraduate would have covered that. I think the people that I met there were so strong. They're so dynamic in their thinking and the way that they approach life that there's just learned experiences. I don't think it was about the college. I think it was about the people who were there at the same time that really inspired me to think in different ways. And so it's not college. It's just about the people that I think.
Really. I'll have two in the SEC next year, Alabama and South Carolina, and one at the Citadel. And I talk about the obsolescence of college to them. And I'm like, they're worried about, well, I may get with a minor and all these, EIEIOs. I'm like, guys, it doesn't matter. I'm like, I promise you that as long as you're in the right church, doesn't matter if you're sitting in the wrong pew, you're going to be baptized in that information if you want it. Right. And I said, really what you're there for is you're building your network. And the people that you meet, because they're going to stimulate your growth as a professional more than a classroom or a book that you're trying to find at that school. So I pay for my kids to go to colleges that 1 out of 4 kids on average in the United States graduates from college with a degree that's already been made obsolete because of technology.
Right.
And every minute in the United States, 2 universities in the United States begin ripping out and replacing all their college curriculum because the technology vehicles or the means and methods they use to educate are going to change, or the topics that they're going to talk about are changing because, again, certain degrees will be made more obsolete because of technology. Others, like building, you're not replacing plumbers and electricians anytime soon, carpenters anytime soon with just machines and robots.
They make all the money right now, too.
The trades are where
I wish I would just went to a trade school instead. Yeah.
Do you understand? That's like, I'm not trying to really say that, but I'm like, college is great to go build people, networks, and really go get inspired by other human beings.
Yeah.
But the stuff that you're really going to learn is going to be
in the real world. Yeah.
In the real world.
100%. I don't remember what engineering classes I've taken. It was really about the connections I built and learning to learn from people. I think that's also really important. So that was my college experience. But yeah.
So I keep interrupting you because I'm fascinated by people's stories, but you went from that really boring job that makes me sleepy to talk about it, and I'm only messing with you. And then you ended up somehow gravitating closer to what we're doing today.
Yeah.
Walk me through that.
Yeah. So I did the boot camp and I think I was ready to try it in real life and, work in a data
try
consultancy.
Coding stuff?
Yeah. It's
Where were you at this time? Were you in New York?
I'm still in New York most of the time. It's during COVID at this time.
You were doing that during COVID?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was interesting. I think I'm a people person. I didn't realize at the time. And so not having people to talk to
It's tough.
is really, really tough. So was not very happy, but was keeping myself busy and productive. And so finally landed on an account for high tech, big tech, as a consultant. And so worked as a data consultant for a year. And then,
were you an independent contractor or were you working for another shop? What were you doing?
I was working for Turner & Townsend.
Okay. Big shop.
Yeah.
One of the biggest. Yeah.
Yeah. So worked on the Google account.
Of course.
Yeah. And then got to know the program a little bit there from the cost side of the house. And then was poached to Yonder. Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Who poached you? Was that Alfonso? Laramie?
So Dermot. Do you know Dermot Callan? He's very good friends with Aina Murphy.
Okay.
Yeah. And so Aina was my first interviewer.
For real?
Yeah.
He's a good dude.
And he was like, you should meet Laramie, you should meet Alfonso. And
you took over all their controls or something like that. You were doing like the most complicated part.
No.
Wasn't that something? I thought you were in controls for them or something.
I was a program manager. And I think it's pretty unique, especially for a smaller developer who's not big enough yet, but they're looking to scale. So
because they had a lot of horsepower over there. Yeah. They had people that had the ability to scale. They were definitely getting ready to ramp.
Exactly. It was such a great time working for Yonder. Just working with the greats. That's how I see it.
So you were Turner & Townsend, which is an incredible shop. We know a lot of people over there. Nothing but great things to say about them because they build a lot of people for this industry. A lot of people get poached from Turner & Townsend. Yeah. Our company's the same. We're a technology incubator for labor. So like if I'm averaging maybe adding 10 people net every month, I'm losing 5 to my clients, other on the operators or the large enterprise end users, because they're using try and buy methods for 6 months or 12 months. And like, we really like this person. And you're not going to, look, that's what we're here to do is to kind of continuously populate the industry with a wider workforce. But when you went from there, did you go into G first before you went to Yonder?
No, I was working on a Google account.
Okay, but you weren't them yet.
I wasn't them yet. Yeah.
Got you. Okay, but I mean, you could still. I mean, there's a lot of people. You're learning a lot about their programs. They rely very heavily on their third parties.
They do. And so it was a really good experience, just understanding how they work or how it's set up, and then going into Yonder. Yonder was amazing. The people are amazing. I learned so much from them. And
what was the biggest exposure that you had? Because that's a completely different aperture to view the whole industry from, is from the operator side. You know, even if you looked at it from the enterprise and user side, like a hyperscaler, there's not a lot of people that are building like what G is. Right. So that's not common, right? That's not what the typical G1.
Sounds like a Voldemort. Like
No, I don't mean it like that. They're a fantastic shop. Big shout out to like Steve Ford is a veteran. Without Steve Ford, like he's done so much to help the veterans in this industry. I can't thank him enough, right? But my thing is that company does a lot for, they want to help groups like yours and groups like mine grow more successful.
Right.
And they don't have to. They're the 800-pound gorillas, right? But they genuinely care about making sure that diversity-based partners are a big part of their strategy and their solution. And they do a lot to help reinforce and strengthen those groups that have a desire to introduce more people from those groups or those smaller private communities that are maybe less represented at some of the larger scale enterprises. And they try to create a bridge to bring them in. Yeah. Right. And I mean, if it wasn't for groups like that, we would have a hard time surviving as a business. And I'm sure as you continue to scale what you're doing on your nonprofit, you know, you'll see the value of that as well.
It's interesting. I think it just comes from the goodness of the heart, right? No one's paying you to do this, right?
No.
It's just organic. You just
purpose-driven.
Yeah.
Same for you. You're here.
And like you just do it because you lose sleep over it and you just want to keep making it turn.
It's rewarding. It's fulfilling. I always tell people that if they come to work for us at our business, we only promise them 3 things. 1, the ability to be inspired, either by what they're building, which has an impact on communities or society, and has the ability to impact humanity in a greater way than any other vertical of industry since we split the atom. I offer them the ability to be safe. And you know what I mean by that, right? We build crazy things, I'm sure. Yeah. And there's a lot of dangerous things that happen in the way that the
safety is number 1. Yeah, for sure.
Number 1 KPI is always safety. But we are building so fast at such a hard volume or velocity that there is an inevitability to human error, right? So human nature will define a statistic in which there are some people that will come to work and not go home that night because they'll have to go to the hospital first. Yeah. Safety is a real factor, right? It's not like some companies don't understand how dangerous it is to build, right? But I don't mean safety from that, because I mean safety from bullshit and politics that happen within an environment where some teams are going to be like, she's not one of us or he's not one of us. Like, we remove all that. You know, Aesop's Fables talks really well about how all the tails are touching and all the horns are facing out because all the threats need to come from outside the team, right? Mm. And then I feel like the last thing that we offer them, inspiration, safety, and fulfillment. But what I have personally learned is you cannot be fulfilled by what you do professionally unless you get to do something in service of your purpose. And you and I talked about that a long time ago.
Yes.
So that takes us close to, like, we're not ready. I want to scratch the pain on what you're doing right now, but let's really talk about not what you're doing and how you're doing it, but why you started what you're doing, because it's no different than what I'm doing, right? I mean, I'm purpose-driven and I want to go help others as much as I can. I want to advance this industry as fast as I can because I have kids that I want to be able to get into this industry that can build careers from the space. Yeah. Right. So you found this industry, seems like, you know, the degree that you took and the path that you took, not that it wasn't relevant, but the people that you were around were relevant. You found your way into this aim. And then the people that you were around, you had people that guided you and people that mentored you and people that sponsored you the whole way through.
Yeah.
Right. So we need those people. I have the same. Right. And those people change. It's not the same person. One day they could be a guide. The next day they could be a mentor. The next year they could be a sponsor.
Right.
And there's a big difference. Do you agree?
I agree.
So walk us through that, because now you're thriving and you're kicking ass in this industry, and there's no silver bullet how to get into this game. It's just to put yourself out there and put yourself immersed around people that have a critical question attitude and they're really creative and they want to take risks. That's how you find your way into this industry. Do you agree?
I agree. I think you just need to just jump into it and whatever tangential skills you have. Just need to dig a little deeper there for sure.
And you need people around you, though, that you could bounce questions off of and not feel like an idiot. I had to be, look, I still to this day, there's a couple guys in this industry who are very successful CEOs and they don't need to be talking to me, but they have no problem taking my phone call and letting me ask any stupid question I have. And they don't laugh at me, right? You have to have those types of people. Yeah. That's the safety, we have to feel safe to be able to grow.
Yeah.
So talk to me about how you got into this game. And now you're like, I want to bring others up and I want to bring others into this industry too, because that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, for sure. So what a great setup. I love that.
Well, let's do it, man. Like, I want people to understand, because I don't want to put a canvas out there and tell people, look at this blank canvas. And if you look at it, close your eyes, there's some birds on there. You can see the sun and then there's some trees. Like, I want to paint with some broad strokes for them to understand how they could relate to it, or how they could talk to their own children, how to relate to this. Because there are people that are going to listen to this podcast, I'm promising you, whose kids are at Ivy League schools and are doing degrees that they don't even know what they're doing. But for some reason, they're like, look, I know if I go to a good school, I'll get a good job. But they don't really understand where yet. And what I'm trying to say is everybody should be pointing their kids at this industry, because it's still blue sky, meaning it's not mainstream, which means that there's only room to grow. Yeah. Once the tipping point happens, as Malcolm Gladwell calls it, and once we have an election behind us, which hopefully will de-escalate tensions around the world and maybe stabilize the global economy, you'll see more people pulling at the threads of what AI really is, and it's going to lead them to what a data center is. And they're going to be like, why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we teaching more on that? And you and I are going to be sitting here going, why aren't you? Right? Like, yes, you should be. Now there's a community that could go to your way. There's a community that go my way to get in the industry. And that's what we're talking about, is building bridges from our communities into this game, because we love this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about college and internships. I think part of the reason why we started there was because it was not easy. I really had to hustle. So after graduation, I've always kept an open ear for any students who needed mentoring or advice, or, needed resume help, or, recruiting. And so I have my own little community there. It's also an Asian American female. So
is that where they all are? Asian American females only? What if I identify as that? Can I be a part of your crew?
Yes, of course. You're our honorary.
I love it. Nice. I want the secret handshake when this is all over with. But that's a really cool demographic that you're targeting. And I remember talking about this a long time ago. Explain to everybody what that is and what the genesis behind that is, because it started with just your pick and axe work, right? It just started with you being a good person.
Yeah. So for those communities, I've always, kept a touch. And if there is any students still on campus who are looking for jobs, if I would go to career fair, I would always send the recruiters numbers or emails, and probably the recruiters don't want to do that to me now. But I think because I understand the struggle of not really having that help or anything. And my brother also went to medical field, which is completely different from a data center field as well. So
that's a mainstream industry. And what defines, in my opinion, a mainstream industry is one that is defined by ethics already. Mm-hmm. So there is regulation and ethics behind law and medicine, which means that it's very mature. It's been around for a long time.
Yeah, it's been around.
This is not. Think about the industry and what it was when all right, cool. When you were in college and you learned about, whatever, how much different has the industry iterated since then?
Right.
Medicine doesn't transform as much as us, but we do deal with, in our industry, the transformations that take place in medicine. Because the more that medicine adopts emerging technologies to advance the services they provide, they rely on the compute capacity that could only be found in a data center.
Yeah.
And that's what we build. So we grow faster than every other industry because of every other industry's needs for technology to advance their own industry. Aviation, logistics, you name the industry, the only way they evolve is with technology, and all that technology falls back into a data center.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's connected.
Yes.
Everything's connected.
People don't realize that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so going back to the students, I would always do mentoring one at a time. And I try to get people that I know around me to mentor them as well. Didn't really kick off I feel like people just have different perspectives in life, and sometimes they're in a different state. They might not be there, or they might be really busy. Like they might have families or...
The struggle's real for everyone. Everyone's not selfish. They're just self-absorbed on their own protection and growth.
And I totally get it, right? So it's just, you want to do something good, but you might be really busy. You might be in a different place in life. So completely understand, but it just never really took off. So it was just me, just on my own, just trying to help these students. And so I used to do that. And then COVID happened. And COVID was a really interesting experience in my life because I grew up in New York and I feel really safe. Like whatever time of the night, I can take a subway. I can walk down the street. But then there was also Asian hate crimes happening in the city. That was the first time I was really, really scared of being a specific gender.
I didn't know this.
And so that made me really fearful. And then at the company that I was working for at the time, they asked me to do Asian American historic month on a, it's in May. I just don't remember the year, but it was a really interesting experience because there was one senior leader in the company who happened to be Asian American, and I really respect him a lot, and he's Japanese American. It's really interesting because Korea and Japan have a history of pain, but we're united as Americans, like Asian Americans, to celebrate. Amazing experience, learned so much from him. And we were like, there's all these hate crimes happening. A lot of racism as well. But let's celebrate. This is our month to celebrate. So we thought of really good points. We've been in this country for a really long time. Also, when you say Asian Americans, it's actually a really wide ethnic group. And so it covers a huge part of land because the United States, we decided to group all these eclectic groups together because it was a very small population size. And so it's actually Asian American, National Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander. And there's different terms being used now.
What is it? Yeah, I mean, Alfonso, who's friends with us, he's got the same passion for his heritage as we have for our tribes. And I remember watching him try to play and iterate on the phrases he would use to create, Hispanics and Latinos. You could say it 5 different ways.
There's so many different terms for it. And some people might feel more connection with another community. For example, like Dwayne Johnson is technically my
He's
umbrella.
in your group. He is.
He needs to sponsor us. I'm just kidding.
Just tell him right now. I'm sure he's listening.
So yeah, it's a really, really big community. And so let's help each other. There's not that many Asian American nonprofits out there too. And so that's why I felt the need to create one at that time to really think about it. But how do you create a nonprofit all by yourself, right? And so it was just on the back of my mind, really, really passionate about that issue. And then I was also taking care of my grandmother at the time because COVID, and she's getting Alzheimer's as well. So it was a very tough time, but got to spend a lot of time with her. So
nice.
It's been really great. So thinking about that, and then I met Alfonso at Yonder. Amazing mentor, amazing boss, great thought leader as well. And
he is pretty incredible. He does a lot for everybody, and he won't even tell you that he's doing it half the time. He's probably even more humble than you are.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, which is incredible, right? But everybody knows him by now and knows how much he tries to contribute to everybody else's success. Those people are infectious, and you can't have enough of them in your orbit. You know what I'm saying? You have to have more Alfonsos in your world.
And you were talking about mentors, sponsors, and guides. Like I feel like I met a couple of them at Yonder.
Sure.
And then we were getting dinner in New York earlier this year, and he was talking about the Hispanic nonprofit. Actually, he sent me the podcast he did with you.
Sure.
And then that's when I got to know him a little bit better and how he was really interested in the Hispanic community. And then at that time, he was thinking about how to make it a reality. And then finally, he made it a reality at the beginning of this year. And so I remember talking about that, and I was just being amazed that you actually put it to action. And so he was like, just do it, Cinthia. That's literally all he said. And I was like, I can do it. I can do this.
Well, so we have to have dreamers around us. Those people inspire us, but it's the doers around us that really bring out the most in us. And he's a doer, right?
He's a doer.
He did it. And he's like, not for nothing, I started my podcast long before him. And Alfonso is someone I'm like, dude, how did you get to 1,000 followers fast? And like, I have to get help from him sometimes, right? And he's like, I got you, bro. Right? He's a doer, and he taught you, it sounds like, how to put your dream to action and become a doer as well. Not that you weren't already a doer, but he just maybe block and tackled and told you where to start.
Yeah. He was just like, don't think about other stuff. And I was like, what about this? What about that? I have to think about this. Just do it. Yeah. I think he mentioned that he had a really good mentor himself who was like, just do it. It might have been you. I
have no idea. Fonz and I go way back. Ironically enough, when he was at Bank of America was when the first time we met. And it was the first time that I was in a position where I had to try to influence a purchasing decision. And Fonz was one of the first guys I had to try to sell to. And he was in the audience with all the royalty of Bank of America at the time. And I probably had a construction trailer with 20 people in it. And it was my first time I'm talking in front of an audience like that. And not only were the people that I worked for in the very back of the room telling me to slow down, like pumping their hands and pump the brakes, but even Alfonso was like, slow down. You know what I'm saying? And he didn't have to do that. But he wants to see people successful. And that's why we're addicted to people like that. You could sense the energy they have around them.
Yeah.
Fonz is a great mentor. I have the luxury of being able to call him a friend, and we bounce a lot of amazing stuff off each other. But we grow through this together. I mean, he's learning things, he's teaching me. So it's all mutually creative, right? But you had a very similar dream that you wanted to bring to reality. And I've done things like that in the past. And when Fonz was doing his, I was trying to put as much wood behind the arrow I could for his as well. And then, next thing you know, you and I were talking, I don't know how long ago it was. Yeah. But I'm like, listen, I admire anybody because it's hard. It's hard to go build something from nothing because what's really important to you isn't really important to a lot of other people. And sometimes you have to push that rock uphill all by yourself. And at the end of a month of really setback after setback and trying to gain momentum, you could easily find yourself in the fetal position in this game because you're just like, why is this not working? But then you just, it's a living, breathing thing. You remember why you started it in the beginning, and then you just keep driving. And it sounds like you had already started yours when I talked, and you were just kind of really putting some muscle around it and you were in the right church, wrong pew, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But here we are.
Yeah.
So tell everyone what it is, what's the name of it, and what does it do? What's the purpose? That way others that are listening could get behind it, because there's other people. Tell them about how wide the aperture is where you qualify, right, to get in that game. Right?
Dwayne Johnson, if you're listening.
Exactly. But you need to be calling out those people, because those people, we have military celebrities, right? None of my heroes were ever, don't get me wrong, those guys like Dwayne Johnson and any other entertainer, they're entertainers, and they're my heroes. My first hero when I was a kid, and I was born and raised on an Air Force base, was a guy named Chuck Yeager. Do you know who he is? Broke the sound barrier, right? Military guy, test pilot. But those were people that I thought, because they were changing, that's at the tip of the spear of technology, the sound barrier, right? People that I got to be around were a little bit different types of celebrities. In my world, we have veteran celebrities too. And many of them, I think, are trash because they don't want to make a difference. They joined the military to make a difference, but now they just use what they did in the military to go make a bunch of mailbox money. And they talk half the time about what leaders are that come out of the military, but they're not contributing to any form of leadership to where they can make a difference on an impact to society or community, right? So I try to really focus on people that want to help, and they're not just doing it to make money, they're doing it to make a difference.
Yeah.
Because we can't do it. I didn't start this conference to make money. We did it to make a difference. And by the time that this podcast comes out, it'll already be revealed that you've been to DCAC before.
Yes.
Well, there's a little group out of Europe that sets up shop 2 to 3 weeks before us every year for the last 3 years.
Are you coming to New York?
No.
Oh, you got me all excited.
No, I'm doing it in Austin.
I could actually go if it's in New York.
You're coming to Austin. You got points. We'll fly you.
Okay.
So the thing is Data Cloud USA likes to set up their conference a couple weeks before ours every year. And I just don't think they have a very good purpose. So we're going to, by the time this is announced, we'll have already done a press release that we're hosting our DCAC, our 10th year DCAC on the same dates as them in Austin, Texas as Data Cloud USA, and hopes to send them packing back to Europe because we don't have room in Austin, Texas for people that just want to take your money and not make a difference, right? So
I love that.
It's a David versus Goliath. These are monsters. They could go back to London and host all their conferences and charge you twice as much and give you nothing but a hangover and a stack of business cards, right? I want people to leave our conferences being inspired to go change the industry. There's a big difference. And we let them chip away at us we had more than 1,300 people at DCAC this year.
That's incredible.
I'd say I got to be at least 3 or 4 times the size of what they were pulling in. But now they're going to go head to head against us. And we're going to go start challenging other conferences too. The only way to get this industry to move forward is to go do what you're doing with your nonprofit, what I'm doing with these platforms to try to disrupt the industry. But I have to do the same as my own. I have a nonprofit giving scholarships to veterans to get acclimated in this industry. But I have a day job too, just like you, right? We're both doing this and we're fully this ain't what we do for a living. This is what we do for our fulfillment and our purpose.
Yeah.
Right. So tell people what your purpose is and how they could help.
Yeah, for sure. So I started a nonprofit with a group of friends. It's amazing. If you have a will, you'll just attract people who are interested in the same mission. And now we've grown into 9 people. And
nice.
That's a big win.
That's huge.
That's triple.
Yes. From the last time I talked to you?
Yeah, from the last time you talked.
You need to just post something similar, like we've tripled in size in the first 3 months.
But they're all really good quality people too.
Yeah, they believe in what you believe in.
Yeah, and so I think I think everybody does a power of 100 people. So I got all majors.
So
I have 9 majors.
For real?
Including me. Yeah.
Explain that to everybody that's listening. What are 9 majors, including you?
So I meant majors as in the people are so like the majors. Yeah.
Strong mentors to others. So now
strong mentors to others.
And each of them can mentor probably how many people successfully over the course of the year? We
actually want to have a really rich experience. We're really focused on community. That's one of our pillars.
What's the name of your nonprofit?
Yeah, it's Patina Network.
What does that mean, Patina Network?
Yeah, so patina is something that wears over time.
Okay.
And it becomes an imprint of itself. So like leather goods, it could be this wear on this wooden desk. So something we
leave it to you to make me have to Google a word to understand what your title of your nonprofit is. That's kind of cool. Okay, but that makes sense.
I work at Google, so
yeah. Exactly. That's what the irony was. But the name of this Patina is because it'll probably transcend beyond you. You're saying you're trying to build something that will always be there, even if you're not there.
Right.
Okay.
And then something that you have to care for a really long time for it to make an impression. And I think there's a lot of effort and time and care into that. And also we have a really special story. So one of our co-founding members, she always pours coffee to the same line in her cup because that's what her grandfather used to do. And so in memory and respect for her grandfather, she would always pour it to the same cup. So there's a mark, there's a patina around that cup.
That's pretty cool. Is that where the name came from?
That's where we selected the name. We all came up with different names, and then that was the name that was selected. So people already knew it. So we had a startup event. We knew each other, and they came to a party, and we just were like, yeah, pick your names. And Patina was the most well voted name. So that's how we.
That's fantastic. So it's amazing because that word really represents discipline and consistency too, which is a really big part of the Asian culture. What is the objective of Patina Networks?
Yeah. So we want to celebrate. We want to celebrate our uniqueness, our culture, and our arts. And through that, we're going to do education of what ANHPI umbrella is. Like Don Johnson, for example, is part of our community. We want to do really fun, thought-provoking articles and shares our culture. So that's one thing that we want to do. We want to empower. We want to help each other like resumes, mentoring, intern.
Career advice. How to navigate, don't go left, go right.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
listen, that's what our job is to try to take, like I have some folks underneath me, and I am distilling 10 years of scars and bad decisions into a 2-year program that I introduced to them to where they could avoid those 8 years of pain and mistakes that I made so they could pick up where I left off. That's what we're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
So for yours, is you're focused on any vertical of industry in general, or are you trying to get them into this industry, or just a community that could transcend into any vertical of industry?
I think it's quite small for this industry specific. Just a demographic, like.
So you're trying to pump it into this industry? You should.
I mean, definitely this industry is part of it. We just have it a very wide net. Any kind of industry, because
it doesn't matter where they're going. They just need professional guidance on how to be professionals in any industry.
Exactly. But we do happen to attract a lot of tech. So we have a lot of
you guys are all
software.
taught that you have to go get educated and then let yourself to tech. I got it.
So we just happen to have a lot of friends who are in tech already. So that's the major internship and also mentorship programs that we do.
Are you trying to raise money for those internships?
100%.
So how does it work? So what is how do people engage with you? I mean, you're going to host a golf tournament one day. If you don't know how to do that, I'll help you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. But you need to, it's the grassroots things that we all started somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Every year we host charity golf events that go back to certain communities, but getting you spun up on how to do that is something that we'd be happy to help you with what we do. But like, you're going to raise some money. Where does that money go?
It goes into programming that we have. So we have a mentorship program that's going on right now, and we budgeted maybe like $40 per head for food. So food events, we're also doing a lot. We're focused on scholarships as well. Philanthropy is one of our pillars. So we want to give students who want to go conferences and do networking, or, pay for their books. I know there's been a couple of founding members who had to work during college to pay for tuition. So we want to help with that. So it goes to the scholarships to students. It also goes to paying students for internships. And we treat it more like a boot camp. We teach them how to do software engineering.
So they're doing programming.
Mostly programming, UX design, data analytics. We're open to other mentors as well. We're looking for non-tech.
So be more specific on that. So there's going to be other people that fit that massive, wide demographic that you have.
Yeah.
And they have a skill set too. And maybe they would love to be a part of this. And they'd be more fulfilled, or fulfill their own personal purpose in life by helping others. I think we all want to help others. Yeah. Tell them what you're recruiting for. I mean, what if they're like, but I don't do that. I'm an engineer. I'm an architect.
We would love that. We want more diversity.
And what they do, not just, okay, so it doesn't matter what they do.
It doesn't matter what they do. We do look for mentors first to figure out what type of profession they are, what type of advice they can give to the students, and we do one-to-one matching. We want a really deep mentorship.
That's cool. How long do these mentorships last?
Right now, the program is for 3 months. It's quite long for a mentorship, and we meet once a week.
In face, on video
virtually,
call?
And then once a month in person. So right now we're in a pilot year. We just started in April. Okay. We just started in April of this year. So our internship program was honestly our best program. It was more of a boot camp where they built our website.
Nice. I think you told me something about that.
Yeah.
How did it turn out?
It's working.
Okay.
The website's working.
Perfect.
So you can check it out at Patina Network .org. It's a little clunky because our students built it, but it looks amazing.
They could just iterate out of that. You have every bootcamp way. Just keep iterating until you have everything you need on there.
We're gonna keep it up until the end of the year, and then we're gonna move on to Squarespace because it's a little bit easier to maintain a website.
Yeah.
But until the students are done with recruiting, we're gonna keep it up so that everybody can come and take a look at their website. And this is our first website, so it's actual use. And then we have an Instagram page as well, Patina Network.
Nice.
And our little stickers
Oh, I got some.
I just put where did it go? Where did it go?
I know. I had my Sheilaji up here, but then they brought me 7 coffees, and I was like, I'm just going to mainline one of these coffees, drink the other one, and then hit my tea. But it's right here for anybody that can see it.
You can also buy stickers for donations.
Nice.
And so yeah, it's really the scholarships, the internship programs. We do also pay for students' dinner when we do our in-person meeting.
So where's the in-person meeting at? It's in Queens?
It's in New York. We do it in the city typically. Yeah. We targeted schools that are in CUNYs, like city universities.
Okay.
Not quite a community, but
is it really just spreading from New York first? And kind of going out.
We want a really rich program. So
but what if you pick up mentors in Northern California as an example?
I would love that. We just haven't figured out how that would work.
Going or something.
Exactly. I think it's about community building for us. We want to know everybody. I know it's like scaling. Do you want scaling or do you want a rich experience?
So what is it that you want? Yeah.
I think we want to be rich enough that we know their names, we know what they're into. I still keep in touch with the students that I mentored this summer, and then just walking through their interviews, their recruiting. So whatever 30 minutes you can do realistically on a monthly basis, that's the type of rich experience we want, even after the program has ended.
Nice.
So I do think that being in person helps. Because just meeting face to face and understanding their quirks, definitely helps. But we want to think about how that would look in a different region. We also are very high touch with the students.
I think what I could offer you, or what I'd like to offer you, you'll find all kinds of excuses to not come to DCAC next year. So I'm giving you one to come. You should come on behalf of your nonprofit and not on behalf of what you do for a living. And what we'll do is we'll work with you on creating an offsite there or a breakout session where you could huddle with anybody in industry that wants to. We're really talking about people that are potential mentors, right? That could join your ranks as people that have the ability. Like they don't have to go mentor 5 people. They have to mentor 1 for 3 months and maybe do that once a year.
Yeah.
And now you're signing them up and you could help them have, tick marks so they like they're an ace. I've done it 3 times now. They could keep score of how many people they mentor and like you, but you want to scale it to where you don't have to personally hopefully know the names of everybody, but everybody that mentors knows the name of everyone that they've mentored, and there's still that connection, right? But you could use our conference next year if you needed to have a breakout session to where you could congregate all those people and bring them all together and use a breakout session to read people in and get people to volunteer and sign up simultaneously. Crackers like me could show up and be like, well, I give out so much money every year for scholarships. We may not give out a lot. Maybe it's $100,000, but I'm giving micro donations to 6 different nonprofits, right? And I gave a $12,000 check to one, and I was like, man, I feel like I wish I could do more, but that's all that we could do this month. And they're like, that's more that we could take 4 more. We could help 4 more people with that money. They know exactly what the cost is per person that's being mentored and how they're helping them, right? So if you could break that out, you can almost be like, who wants to sponsor 1 person? It costs this much per year. And does that make sense? But people like me. I
want to take notes down right now.
Well, you can listen. Come on.
Oh yeah, I could listen. Yeah.
Just listen to it. But I'm in your corner, and I always have been. I will be. But you have to push your stuff, and then people like us, because I'm going to need help from you in the future for maybe doing something that impacts my community, right? Or maybe there's someone that falls into my community that also falls into yours.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to have some Asians and Pacific Americans that have come into mine that are veterans that can lead for you, and we both double tap them, right? So we're trying to create this ecosystem where people that get to a very specific position, as they increase altitude and airspeed, they should be helping drag at least one with them, and that's where we really roll out the efficiency and the effectiveness of the 3 levels of influence that you have in your professional development: the guides, the mentors, and the sponsors. And there's a huge difference between those 3, right? So you should be able to use this industry. I'm sure George Rocket at DCD, who's very, they have a great level of interest in trying to help these types of things too. We don't own the market on this. I'm like, there are some of these groups like ours that are like, how can we help? Right. Even if we don't fall into your demographic, how can we help? Right? So you have to really you have to challenge us, you know, on how much you want to really make an impact. And you could change 12 souls a year. You could change 120 souls a year, depending on how you scale.
And I think it's really important for us to help each other. Allyship, we purposely put allyship in our mission statement because
What is the word?
Allyship.
Another word I got to Google just to talk to you. Tell me what this is.
Yeah.
Allyship, like a partnership you're talking about?
Yeah, it's you're not necessarily within that demographic, but you want to be a good neighbor.
Yeah.
Do as how you would like to be treated, right?
Sure.
So we stress upon that too. And so we had one Hispanic student for our internship program, and we have a very diverse class of mentorship program this year too. So we're not just Asian Americans. We do want all of us to succeed.
But they're all women?
Not all women either.
Really?
Yeah.
You're all over the place then.
We are a little bit. We're taking this as a pilot year to figure out our program and also build our community. Also, we'll get to really know each other. We still talk to our students who already went back to class. So it's really cute, just like seeing all the chats happening.
Nice.
We have our community in our Discord. So Discord's very interesting. Are you on Discord?
Nope.
You should get on.
Should
it.
I?
You should.
Okay, so tell me why I would.
You can break off into smaller groups. You can also have public channels. You can talk about running. You can talk about bouldering, but you can also talk about announcements. So you can be like, oh, I have, G-Meet. Why would you need another space? It's more organic, and that's where all the youngins are. And
that's where the Gen Z hang. I gotta find them.
And so I learned a lot of terms.
Yeah.
Apparently there was like a bread emoji. I didn't know what that was. Apparently that's just like that means good.
Oh, bread does?
Like
I was just thinking this. My daughter's she's 17. We just went and toured University of Alabama, and she used a phrase in front of me the other day. And I think this was a phrase that she used to define her conviction and how important or how serious she was. But she's like, no, I'm dead ass about that. And I'm like,
yeah.
There's no emoji for that.
Yeah.
Right? But I was like, all right, I guess it's a new, but that whole, Gen Z.
They're on Gen Alphas now.
I know, but Gen Alpha, they have a long way to go before they're making an impact in this industry. Where Gen Z will outnumber the baby boomers in this in the workforce in the United States before the end of this year, which is a couple months away.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of people that, like, the Gen Alphas are predicted to probably be less likely to join corporate America and start buying businesses away from retiring baby boomers. Who knows? But there's technology. Think about Gen Z as the digital pioneers, right? What millennial? I'm guessing. Right.
At the cusp.
Right. So, but I'm thinking I'm Gen X, which means that my parents still spanked me, right?
I'm Asian, so
you're getting it no matter what.
I got.
Well, that's probably why we get along. No, but my thing is if you look at Gen Z, they were born like when you and I were born. Maybe the Internet of Things was prevalent, but it wasn't what it is today. But it was the first. It was very AOL dial-up, but it was
very
the first.
Slow, yeah.
But it was the first thing that really compromised our privacy by giving access to so many things, but nothing like smartphones did when we started just becoming an application-based society that really introduced more things. So I was born with a phone hanging on the wall with a 12-foot cable.
Yeah.
And
I remember this. Do you remember that?
Yeah, the rotaries. I still love them. I think they're coming back. They're vogue again. I was at a hotel and they're bringing those ones back. Probably digital, but they just look cool. My thing is very vintage, but Gen Z was born with the Internet of Things and the World Wide Web and cloud and smartphones in their hand and all the applications that led to social media. And I think that they're also the first ones that are kind of getting a little bit more sick of technology because it's been omnipresent and in their hand since birth. And now they're realizing, like, this little rectangle that I have, it doesn't always do me a lot of favors. In fact, in many cases, it's what gets them in the most trouble, right? So most of these kids are learning, like, it's not too much of a good thing is a bad thing. And I think that the cell phone or the smartphone for Gen Z will be just as appealing to them as the convenience of food was when I was their age, which was now fast food, which is a disaster as we're learning more about. There's so much food that we are pumped into in our society that I just came back from the UK where the they don't let those products be served in food over in Europe right now, but in America, it's put into everything, right?
Yeah, but this is American corporate.
But technology is allowing us to have more visibility and more transparency into the things that we keep within our orbit or put within ourselves. And I think that we're learning. I think that the more aware we're going, we'll find, like, even for us, like I started my career in conferences by just hijacking them with parties, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now I host my own, but I rarely drink. And I have just as many healthy hours.
You just spill other people's drinks, right? So
well,
they can't drink.
Only if they're
time.
Asian Americans, females, then I'm going to definitely spill a drink on them.
Okay.
But that was an accident. And I feel like Jen pushed me.
Set it up.
I know. That was a hot mess.
Don't blame it on Jen. Like
I remember you were genuinely pissed. I was like, this lady is probably a bitch, first of all. No, but I was like, she's one of those really angry people that hates Americans. No, but I was like, I totally sat down. There was a lot of commotion going on, and I was doing jazz hands at the time, probably. Yeah. And you're like, what in the heck is wrong with you? And I was like, where do I begin?
Yeah.
That was the first time we met, if you remember.
I do remember. And
then I walked past you, I think, at the conference and said something. I forget what I said, but I was trying to talk a little shit, and you were like, not having it.
Typical New Yorker. Yeah,
you're a slow drip for sure.
Yeah.
You were like a sphinx that day, but over the course of time, I think you realized that I was harmless. So,
right.
How was that conference for you, by the way? What do you think?
It was, I mean, I love Texas. I think the yonder introduction with Laramie, like, did you not see my cowboy
boots? As you were walking
I also
in,
have a felt hat.
Of course you do.
So I think the culture is amazing.
Austin's a fun town. I like Austin. I think it's a very vibrant town, a lot of really healthy energy. I'm a big music fan. So
if you were to move, would you recommend Austin or Houston, Dallas?
If I lived in Texas, I would only live in Austin.
Oh.
If I leave Austin, it'll be for like Tennessee or something else. Yeah. Austin is like, I look at everyone that knows me is going to hate me. Laramie will probably text me when,
Yeah.
Dallas to me is LA, and Houston to me is New York, and San Antonio is like Texas. They all consider Austin San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so like,
I can see that.
Yeah. Laramie's like, where's the Birkenstocks and the granola? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because those are real Texans, but he doesn't live in Dallas. He's up where the Cowboys type of shit is. Right. So Southern Oklahoma is where I tell him he always lives, which he's still in Texas. But there are pockets. San Antonio seems like to be, that's real Texas. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Does that make sense? Like,
I kind of want to go now.
San Antonio is awesome. If you haven't been, we do a lot of work there, a lot of industry for what we do is in Texas. But I think what Texas will soon be, based on all I'm not sure what you read. We all read the same white papers. It looks as though what Virginia is for the cloud, which is the headquarters of the global cloud, AI will most likely find its greatest home and headquarters in the state of Texas because of the capacity to natural gas and the deregulated energy market, and just the size of the state itself is bigger than most countries. And we have the ability, specifically in West Texas, to put a lot of data center capacity online. And what the data center is becoming today, specifically because of the demand for AI, is no longer just four walls and a roof with some space, power, and cooling.
Yeah. It's not just a computer anymore.
And because of the AI data centers having less network latency challenges as cloud, we can go to Midland, Odessa, and we could build data centers, but the data center will be at the same size as the power plant that we're putting online as a primary solution for energy, because we're not going to get the utility grid to show up in the amount of time that we need to support the consumer's adoption rate of emerging technology. Either we have to tell consumers, we have to do when I was born, cell phones came out and we were charged by the minute. Do you remember that? And then
I remember the ads with the orange TikToks. Yeah,
it was the worst, because if you went over on your minutes, then they would hammer you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then everything shifted to data, right? And now we're at a point where never since then has society ever had a limitation to capacity to adopt more technology. You could put as many apps you want as long as you had enough room. And then once we created cloud, you're like, I don't need that room.
Yeah.
So I could do anything I want. So we're buying cloud today as a utility. It is a utility. It's the fifth utility.
It is kind of amazing, like how everything has changed over the last 10 years, just even now, like
last 4 years,
last 4 years,
last 2 years,
just this year. It's just crazy.
But I mean, and that's what I'm saying is just if you were to just look at what has changed in 2 years or even this 1 year, look at how massively different, because we started the data center gold rush in 2024, I think. Try to imagine where we're going to be in 1 more year from now.
I know. Yeah, it's crazy.
But we don't know. So that's why like you're mentoring people and so am I. And I'm telling them, just get in the game. It does not even matter what you do in this industry. You could start off as a builder. You could start off as a psychopathic civil engineer working for an MEP firm. It does not matter because you're going to be interested in something. You're going to gravitate to something that you're more interested in because people think that, well, I don't get grades in that. And I'm like, grades are not a reflection of intelligence. They're a reflection of an interest in a subject. And not only if you find, I mean, look, it doesn't sound like you needed anybody's help to pick up the things that you did to advance your own career, but I doubt that you would have let anybody stop you from learning the things that you did so you could iterate off of your own career. And that's hopefully what we're trying to inspire and mentor into others is like, just get in this industry because the sky is the limit. And once you get in, like, think of it like baseball. I've never played baseball, but I imagine if I did, I would probably want to figure out who on the field gets hit the ball the least. And I'd want to go play that position so I don't have to be under the responsibility of catching one of those things as it's flying to me, right? But if I get really good at that, maybe I'll want to move into the infield one day. And then maybe I'll be like, look, I could play first or second, or you want me to be behind the plate? But that's how you learn the game. So I tell people, I'm like, just get in the game and then figure out what position's best for you. Whether it's working for an architect or an engineer, or working for a builder, or working in the trades, the trades is where the juice is at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. They're all millionaires.
Look, I was paying electricians 4 years ago $250,000 a year in the Pacific Northwest, right? So
for your house?
No, just to build data centers, and we can't build fast enough. The labor is what brings you could have people from every hyperscale in the world that have the biggest, fattest brains and the greatest visions that have an impact on this industry, but unless you have the trades and those that perform the services with their hands, you will never bring that vision to life.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you.
So, and there's, right now, it's just the obsolescence of college has made it to where back when I was being born and raised and it was my parents said the same thing that your parents probably said was just shut up and study and go to college and figure it out. I mean, at least you're failing forward, right? You never hurt anybody, but there's a lot of homeless people on the streets with degrees, right? So my thing is if you don't like college and you don't want to sit in a homogenous environment where people are just viewing things that you're spitting things at you all day, go immerse yourself in a very kinetic environment like in the data center industry where no 2 days are the same. You're going to pick up a whole nother skill set. Like for me in my community, it's the military. So we're not at war. I doubt we'll be at war. Depending on who wins the next election, there's a good chance there won't be a war. And now's the time for most parents to put their kids into the military when we're not at war, because the military is the home for the most advanced weapons, machinery, and technology that's ever been built on this earth. Because technology is built for and typically funded by governments for national security and defense and intelligence first.
Yeah.
I was on a submarine, right? Not a lot of civilians get to see or have access to the things that I went to school for and was trained on or got to do with that application of technology. So why wouldn't we send our kids there? Not only do they not need to accrue college debt, but they come out of the military with a skill set that is in a very high demand from this vertical of industry, and they don't care where you went to college for. You could join the military and enlist and never have to get a college degree and never have a limitation to your ability to grow in this space.
Yeah.
That's my community, trying to get your community to overlap into that. And then Alfonso's and everybody else's that we have. I mean, like the chorus is what sings louder than the soloist, which is why we're using these opportunities to talk together.
Yeah.
Because we're helping each other grow these things, right?
100%. Yeah.
And I expect you to be learning a lot more shit that you could teach me too with my own stuff, because the optics and how I view it will be from my generation, Gen X, you're Gen Y, and we're both recruiting for Gen Z.
Yeah.
It's just different. And the way that they gravitate will be different. Like I have Marley on my team, and I have another lady that runs, all the other parts of my market named Shay. Could not be more different. One went to college, one went to the military. They both ended up on the same team doing kind of not the same things, but working in parallel with each other, contributing to the same mission. And you would never, like, you didn't have to go to college to do that. They just needed to have the right people in their orbit and the right network, which is how they found this place, because no one knew about this industry. Neither one of them would be in this industry if they didn't have someone that knew about the industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have to educate those people in your groups and Alfonso's groups and my groups and all the other groups that exist. And we have to create a collective to where we're all singing from the same sheet of music in some things. And then we're all rowing in the same direction to help each other. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's all serving one community.
Yeah,
right?
Be good allies.
Yeah. So how can people help you today other than follow or, I mean, there's stuff that you're doing. If there's mentors that are here, what if they're not Asian, but they still think they can mentor?
I think all of my mentors have been non-Asian and non-women.
Okay.
I think also just because of the dearth of people who are in my demographic in this industry.
9 out of 10 of us are dudes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I wish it was not the same, but I mean, we have to get more women that feel confident and safe and comfortable putting their passion and their talent and their skills into this industry.
Yeah, I'm doing my best not to leave. I think.
You're going to leave the industry?
No. As in, like, I think I need to be here.
You have to.
I have to be in this industry.
Why?
That's how I feel. I think being able to have organic conversations just with people, you don't have to like learn how to be different, right? I just want to make it safe for people who are, women, also Asian at the same time. We can be here.
Yeah. I think it's not just them. I would challenge you this. Don't just talk to them. You have to talk to other people like us too. Because guys like Alfonso, they could block and tackle, right? He's very well respected in this industry and very well known.
Yeah.
And the thing is we don't know. I mean, even he's a minority immigrant too, but he doesn't know what the trials and tribulations look like for a female immigrant Asian. I could promise you that I don't, right? But I could tell you that if I knew how I could help, then I would. But if I'm not contributing, it's not because I don't care. It's because I don't even know where I'd begin, right? So my message is to educate the rest of us too, right? Because a lot of us would like to help. Everybody wants to help somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some places you just don't know where to start or how to do it, right? And some groups are just more inclusive in where they want their help from than others, right? So, maybe that's what we do to bring this podcast home, right? In these final minutes is there's no right or wrong answer. There's no silver bullet answer to how you describe what you do with a nonprofit. What your nonprofit is a living, breathing thing that'll iterate. The narrative that you use to define this should probably be reinvented a bit once every 2 months for the next 2 years. Yeah. Right? I mean, I'm in a 5-year-old startup. We just crossed 5 years. Technically, tomorrow is our 5-year anniversary.
Is Overwatch 5 years?
Tomorrow.
It's only been 5 years.
Yeah, I know.
That's incredible.
I know. Even a blind squirrel could find a nut, I guess it says, right? So
wow. But
we all started from somewhere. I started with 3 founders who could only afford 2 employees. We had 1 business unit, 0 clients, right? And we didn't know what we were doing. We just knew that we had to make a difference. Our purpose is what fueled us and drove us. And it's the relentless chip on our shoulder that keeps driving us, right? And I think that is the most rewarding and fulfilling thing that we get to do. I get to work with some of the most amazing companies in this game. And we get to go trucking with a lot of really amazing leaders in this space. But it's the souls we change that people are going to remember us from, not how many data centers our teams have built. It'll be how many people did we put into this industry that otherwise would have never been in this game. And you're trying to do the same right now.
Yeah. Let's say in the next 5 years.
Well, listen, I get first rights to your 5-year anniversary right here.
Of course.
But this is a platform that's for the industry. So anybody else that's listening, they're welcome to come up here and do what you're doing, because that's why we did it, because we needed a voice. We needed a platform or a megaphone where other people that were not disenfranchised, but they were in orbit or adjacent to the mainstream. And what you're trying to do is you're pioneering something, right? So no matter how good you could do it, you're not going to do it as all of us together. That's why you have people like Fonz and people like me and those that we go trucking with that are also going to be in orbit behind us to support people like you. And when the next one emerges, you're going to have to be right there in the ranks with us as we support them.
100%.
So what's the last message you would have for these people if they want to reach out and be a mentor? If they have questions that they just want to ask, like, what if I'm this? What if I'm that? What if I don't do this? What if I'm stationed in Nebraska? Like, open up the aperture to where people could contribute in any form or fashion. And that's going to force you to evolve your nonprofit, because they're going to ask you questions to participate in ways that you hadn't thought of yet, because they're going to see it from a different perspective than you can, right? So I challenge you to keep pushing. the envelope and find ways to allow as many people as you can to contribute to your mission.
That's a really great advice. I think us just starting, and this is our, startup year of just getting operations up and running. We had really good questions and discussions from others who want to help or are just curious, but are not quite sure if they fit with us. We're a really open community. We want to grow and we want to be organic when we want to be thoughtful. So please reach out to us.
How can they reach you on the website?
On the website,
and
or
it's
Patina Network.
Patina network.org.
Patina Network.
There it is. And there's a email address for simple questions, info,
sure,
whatever.
Yeah. hi@patinanetwork.org. Yeah.
Okay. Now listen, on LinkedIn, if people wanted to connect with you, your LinkedIn has, it's not just Cinthia Kim, I think. You have a bunch of EIEIO behind it with all your,
yeah.
Right? So like, can people find you? How do they find you on LinkedIn? And then maybe LinkedIn is the vehicle they use to get to you instead of your website.
For sure. I think our website is
okay, it's
experiment. So that's why it's not going to be live until the end of the year. So you can reach me at Cinthia Kim. There's 2 I's in Cynthia's. So
of course there is. You have to Google words to talk to you, and you have
2 I's everywhere. Yeah.
Yes, I got you. All right, so that's how they could reach you. And there's no anybody that wants to contribute. Maybe they just want to sponsor. Maybe they want to donate. Maybe they want to mentor. Whatever, they could bring in any of their questions to you, and you could help
100%
drive that.
Donations are welcome.
Listen, I think that what we can do is help you productize ways in which it makes it easier for people to make donations, right? Because I think that it could be like a cup of coffee. Like I drive through the drive-through lane all the time. The only thing I try to do is buy the coffee for the person behind me.
Yeah.
I just hope that they didn't order 15 sandwiches that morning or some shit. But we have to pay it forward is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of people that are willing to donate a cup of coffee here and there to help do what you do. If you're telling them that, hey, for every time that you donate, arbitrary number here, $50, we get to help one more person do this for 3 more months. If you tell us what it is, productize what that donation looks like, and help us understand what the impact is directly.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that you'll be surprised at how many people are generous in this day and age, because what you're asking for isn't a ton of money. It's an affordable luxury for us to be like we're able to help. Right. A lot of people do that. A lot of people set aside money for tithing. It's not just for church, right? Mm-hmm. So
we are a 501c3 status.
Sick.
We just reached it. I was working hard.
Good.
So you will get your tax receipts if you do donate.
All right. Well, listen, this is not the last discussion we're going to have. This is the first of many, I hope.
Yes.
And over the course of time, as you have ebbs and flows and you learn and you got scars and you have great windfalls you want to talk about, this is your platform to come talk about it. This is for you to help grow what you're doing on your nonprofit. Okay. Yeah, man. Anything else that you want people to know that don't know anything about you? Last thing.
I've been to Korea once.
That's it?
That's it.
But you still speaking the Korean fluently? No problem?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't think my relatives consider me Korean though, so it's interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
If you go there, they don't call you that?
They were asking me about a political issue with the US, and they were like, "What are your thoughts?" As an American.
I did DCAC Dublin a few weeks ago, and the following day I went to Scotland for a few days, mm-hmm. which is where my heritage is. And it's funny because when you sit around in a bar in Scotland and people are like, "What are you?" I'm like, "I'm an American." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Do you have it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have some Scottish in me." They're like, "You're not Scottish. Unless you were born here, you're not Scottish."
Oh, okay.
They're like, if your grandmother and someone else slept together 8 generations ago, you're not Scottish. If you're 1/8, whatever, and they're like, "You're not Scottish." So like and I'm okay with that. They're protective of their heritage. And I'm like, be honest with you, I'm an American.
Yeah.
And I served this country. Mm-hmm. This is my country. Mm-hmm. I'm proud to be an American. But it is cool to be able to celebrate the heritage of what you have if you go to other places, as long as they're cool with you celebrating that heritage too.
Yeah.
But the Scottish were like, "No, you're not one of us."
You're not one of us.
I can respect that, so.
Did you try an accent at least?
No, I just ran around with a kilt on the whole time. They're like, "What are you doing?" No, I'm joking. I didn't try any of those things.
They have their family tartans.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Look, do
you know which ones? Oh,
yeah, Thompson.
Okay.
And I bought a couple like scarves and stuff like that, but I'm not running around their tartans right now and having other Scots be like,
I would have been more impressed if you actually showed up with that today.
Maybe I should.
Yeah.
So
you should have it in your car, just like It's your custom.
I can in America, but if you go to Scotland with that stuff, they'll punch you in the face. I'm sure.
Yeah,
like, you're not one of us. But
it's disrespectful.
I am so happy that you flew into town. Thank you for sharing what you're trying to get accomplished, because I think the people in the industry will, one, be inspired by what you're doing, and some will follow suit, and two, may want to come and be a supporter of what it is that you're doing. Yeah,
and we're constantly recruiting if you want to help out as well. So
awesome.
Reach out.
Well, listen, thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your story. Thanks for joining the revolution. I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course.